Yo, 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 this is Derek, and you're listening to the Jack and Ginger podcast. So what's up, man? This is new for me. This is a big step. This is my first shot at recording a podcast, of course. I've been listening to podcasts all throughout the pandemic, and I'm like, man, I want to throw my hat in the ring. So some of the things I want to talk about is just like current events. I want to talk about sports, fashion, mainly. It's just going to be about like sneakers and stuff I'm into. And just kind of express, what I'm going through. It's almost going to be like therapeutic, man. Every week I'll kind of get to put my feelings and thoughts on this recording. And hopefully, we can mesh and you can get something out of it as well. So the name Whiskey and Ginger, or Jack and Ginger, as I'm going to call it, it came from my favorite drink of choice. So I got to tell you a story about how I first started drinking whiskey and ginger, or Jack and Ginger. So I went to a wedding in Chicago. One of my good friends, Laura and Ben, they're actually going on 10 years of marriage, I think next summer. We went to their wedding, dope wedding, great wedding, everything. So we're at the little happy hour after the wedding. So I'm at the bar, and one of my friends that I also worked with at the time, Charles, I'm like, man, what you drinking, Charles? He's like, man, get this Jack and Ginger, man. It'll change your life. And no lie, like I got the drink and I've been drinking it, ever since. I know that makes me sound like a alcoholic or something, but nah, it's not like that. It's just that's my favorite drink of choice. And I find that sometimes I'm the most social when I'm like out socializing with friends and drinking. So I'm trying to be social with this podcast. So therefore, Jack and Ginger podcast. So it took me a while to start this podcast. I think mainly because I try to be a perfectionist in a lot of things that I do. And at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? Nothing's ever going to be perfect. The best step is like the first step, and sometimes you just got to just go for it. So that's where I'm at now. This is episode 0, or episode 1, we should say. I was going to say 0 because who knows where this is going to go. This is episode 1. I'm going to commit, right? The best step is the first step, and that's going to be probably the title of this podcast. The best step is the first step, right? So what's been going on with me? Just wrapping up summer. This last month and a half has been crazy. I took some really dope trips throughout through the last end of the summer, over the end of August and September. Okay. Funny story is I went to the ABC store yesterday, and I guess there's a national shortage on everything. So I intended to get Gentleman's Jack, but I ended up with Four Roses, as you can probably see in the back here. That's where the Gentleman's Jack is supposed to be. But I'm perpetrating and I'm false flagging with the Four Roses today. So, back to my summer. So summer's over, right? I took a lot of dope trips this summer. The first trip I took, my wife actually surprised me with a trip to New Orleans, right? First time going to New Orleans, on the way out there, our flight got delayed, but we made it out there straight. I feel like New Orleans, man, has some of the most genuine people. I feel like everybody we met there that was from New Orleans was dope, helpful, suggesting places to go, places not to go. So it was New Orleans was dope. It was hot as hell there. It was 90, 95, felt like 100 every day. New Orleans is one of them places where it's you go and you walk outside for 10 minutes and you immediately want to go back in and change your shirt, right? Or you're going to need a beater or something just to beat the sweat out there. But yeah, it was dope, man. We had great food. Of course, we drunk way too much. I think we got there Friday night and came back Monday morning or sometime around there. So it was weird traveling as well because, of course, we're in the middle of COVID. So it's we went on Bourbon Street because you can't go to New Orleans without going to Bourbon Street, right? So we go on Bourbon Street, we masked up and everything, and it's man, I don't. Of course, it's mainly tourists out there, but I'm walking around these dudes or these people out here do not care. There's no mask. They in and out of bars every 5 seconds. You would have thought that there was no COVID going on. So we had to exit stage left and get up out of there quick. The next night, we went to a street called Frenchman Street. We met this dope waiter at this restaurant. I think it was called Redfish. It's on Bourbon Street. This dude Ike, he said he was from the Cali Oak Projects or whatever, but he suggested a place for us to go. So we went to Frenchman Street, which is like where most of the locals go. So we went there the next night, and that was probably more so up our alley. We found like a couple bars there where we could, chill, have a couple po' boys, have a couple drinks. So yeah, the trip to New Orleans was dope, man. And then the next trip I took was to Houston. One of my best friends, Jamar, just recently got married, but we went to Houston like the middle of August, and that trip almost didn't happen. But right before we went, COVID started going crazy, so they told us, they're like, man, Harris County, which is the county that Houston is in, they got their code red right now for COVID. So we get to like the week of, and honestly, like we almost had to cancel the trip, right? So, we looking at, can we cancel the Airbnb? Can we get any money back? What can we do? Long story short, couldn't cancel the Airbnb. We couldn't get any money back on tickets for most people. And then it was like, man, we just got to go and pray. Saying that nobody don't catch COVID, because the way the bachelor party timing was set up, it was going to be like a week. Like 2.5 weeks right before the wedding was starting. So, we went, if he would have got COVID, we would have had to cancel the whole thing. Like that was crazy. It would have been crazy. But luckily, through the grace of God, like we made it through. Went out there. We took it easy, right? So our biggest night was like Saturday night. We went to Camp Houston. Camp Houston was wild, man. Like, it's like we first went in there. It was like, okay, it wasn't filled up yet, but we like, it's cool. This is from my perspective. I'm seeing it like, man, it's social distancing in here. We're gonna be straight, man. And then like 11:45, 12 came, and it was a zoo, man. Like it was still distance, and I had the mask on and off, but it was a damn zoo up in there. But it was dope. That was one of the best nights, or the best night that we had out there. And then we walk out, and the damn vehicles got towed. We had rented 2 cars, so we parked at Papados, right? So the vehicles got towed. So that was a whole nother thing. It's like you go from this high of like, clubbing and like actually being able to get out and have some fun for the first time in a while, and you walk out and you realize your vehicles is missing. So, but yeah, that was dope too. And then we go to Wrightsville Beach the week after that. That was a trip just with my family. It was dope to see, because we went to the beach or whatever, and it was dope to see my kids just be like amazed by like seeing the ocean and pick up shells and stuff like that. And it was actually for our anniversary, so we just celebrated 6 years. So that was a dope trip. And then like the finale of the whole summer was my boy Jamar's wedding, which was in Seattle. So I really rock with Seattle. Like one thing is like you got off the plane and it's like 70 degrees, but it's like a crisp 70 degrees. Like I stay in Charlotte, right? So 70 or 80 degrees here is different from 80 degrees out west. Like 80 degrees out here, like you might walk outside and it feel like 95. Like 80 degrees out there is really 80 degrees, right? So shout out to Seattle. So my boy Jamar, he moved out there maybe like 2 months ago. He got married, beautiful wife, it was a beautiful wedding. I was one of the best men in the wedding. It was so dope. Funny story out there is like, so we go to the reception, we go to like the ceremony first, right? So we taking like cars to go to reception because it wasn't at the same place. So the photographer who shot the wedding hops in the vehicle with us. So we like, cool, man. We had talked to him before. He from Houston, so he was funny. He was hilarious. But so we got like bottles in the car or whatever. We drinking. He like, man, pass that bottle back. So I pass it back. I'm like, yeah, I know dude gotta have a cup or something, right? Now mind you, this is September. We still in COVID protocol. We wearing masks and everything. This dude takes the bottle of Henny and like takes it to the face, right? So it took a little second. I'm like, yo, like I know dude didn't just do that. And like he ain't just take one. He took like 2, 3 swigs of it, right? So once we all realized what's going on, we like, yeah, that's his bottle now. Like he straight disrespected with that one. it's funny to think about it now, but at the time we was pissed. We like, dude, like how you just gonna do that? We ain't really say too much, but it was like, yo, like there's no etiquette. Like you can't be facing a bottle in the middle of COVID, right? That's just a no go, right? So yeah, man. I mean, sports is back. Uh, Full disclosure, college. I'm a Florida State football fan. I'm not gonna talk about them. We 0-3. I think Norvell is out of there, right? Like I thought we couldn't get no worse than Willie, and Norvell came in and was like, "Yo, hold my beer, watch this." Right. So we not even gonna discuss them on this podcast because I need this podcast to be therapeutic and I need my sanity. So let's go to the NFL. I'm a Bucks fan. We won the chip last year. But anybody that knows me knows that I'm the biggest Jameis Winston fan on earth. I can't tell you like how pumped I was last week to see him come out and throw 5 touchdowns and kill Aaron Rodgers on the field. So I'm predicting the MVP for him this year. Yep, y'all heard it here first. So at the end of the year, right when he wins the MVP, you can run this tape back and say that I'm like Nostradamus or something, right? So what I want to do every week is like we gonna have a Jameis Watch. Like it's gonna be I gotta create some type of a logo or a memo or something, and we gonna put it at the bottom of the screen. We gonna post stats every week, win or lose, good or bad. I'm gonna stand up behind my man. He is probably outside of Mahomes, in my opinion. I think he's like the most talented quarterback in the NFL. That's just what I think. That's just me, right? So that's what it is. So um, I I put a poll up on Instagram to my followers, right? So the two hottest albums. Let's just we jump into music a little bit, but the two hottest albums out right now, um, based on what pop culture is saying or the media is saying, is Drake, Certified Lover Boy, and Kanye's Donda, right? So full disclosure, both albums, like when they first came out, I kind of listened a little bit, skipped around, and I moved on because like with the Kanye album, and I regret it. I kind of was like, yo, I'm not in the mood for that. I'm gonna have to come back to it. With the Drake album, it was like, yo, this is dope, but it's Drake. Like it's gonna be dope. Like it's gonna be smashes on there. It's gonna be hits for the ladies. It's gonna be like a couple bangers for just dudes, like street bangers or whatever you want to call them. But so I kind of played both of them to the side. But I did this weekend when I knew I was gonna talk about this. I'm like, you know what? Let me put a poll up and let me go back and like really listen to all of them. And so based on the poll, like 54% went to Donda, and then like 46% went to Drake's album. So I mean, it's still pretty close. Now, in my opinion, I think Kanye had the better album. Going back and listening to it again, I feel like Kanye makes more soulful music, even though, like, yo, these are two totally different type of albums. Like, these don't sound the same. I know they're both considered rap or hip hop, like, but they're two like sonically different albums. They touch on different subject matter. Drake is more like hip hop pop. The Kanye album is more like gospel rap, soulful rap type, and it's hard to compare the two. But if I had to pick one, the one that I'm think gonna stand the test of time for me, that I'm gonna listen to more than the other, I would have to go with. Excuse me. I would have to go with Kanye's album Donda, right? Even though the rollout was like long as hell, there's no way we should have had to wait like a month, 2 months for him to drop this album. Like that's the only misstep. That's why when I heard it finally, I was like, okay, let me put this on the back burner like he made us wait, and then I'll listen to it when I'm ready. But I will say it's a solid, dope album. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not one of my favorite Kanye albums, but it's probably top 3, 4. I don't think any album will, surpass College Dropout for me, just because like at that time, like I felt like I was living College Dropout. Like College Dropout was like the anthem for me back then. So I don't know if he'll ever be able to make another album to surpass that. But yeah, like dope album. But if you ask me, like who got the hottest album this year, it's ESTG, and that's probably a head scratcher for some people because y'all like, yo, who is ESTG? Why is he relevant in this conversation? But I think ESTG probably one of the dopest out. I mean, my favorite rapper right now is Lil Durk, but ESTG album like made me go back and listen to his other projects, and he got some dope work. Let's just say that. Like he been consistent for some years, and I just now found out about him like a month or two ago, right? So, but yeah, he's up there to me with the upper echelon rappers, but I don't think since he's kind of new, like he's gonna really get that look like that to be compared to his album to be compared to the Drakes, the Kanye's. Nas had a dope project. I still got to sit with that some more and listen to that some more. But to me, like the dopest album I've heard so far is ESTG album. So shoot me for it, right? So, but yeah, man. As I sip this yak, that might do it for episode 1. I just wanted to basically, introduce the podcast, introduce myself, tell you a little bit more about me, and just say, I'm gonna try to be consistent with this. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, the first step is the best step, or the best step is the first step, however you want to flip it. But that's the model that I'm going with this year. It's just I feel like I procrastinate, with a lot of things, and the most important step is the first step. Meaning, like, as much as you procrastinate trying to get something to be perfect, maybe if you proceed with something at 80%, you can make up the other 20% by learning and experience. So that's what I'm going with. I gotta just go for things because I'll wait and wait and wait and then just never do it. Right? So yeah, man. So I appreciate you guys listening. I will check in with y'all next week, and that's it for episode 1 of the Jack and Ginger podcast. Appreciate it, guys.